Before anything, I want to make it clear that I'm not trying to make panic porn. I'm not trying to do a video where I scare the bejesus out of you. That's not my intention at all. Because in fact, a lot of people get a lot of clicks from panic porn. And the fact is, I'm putting this on Patreon, so obviously I'm not going to get any clicks except from the audience that I already have. Okay, so this isn't panic porn, though I do believe that now is the time to panic. Oh yeah. It's my belief that over the next 6 to 12 months, we are going to see some major catastrophes unfold right before our eyes. Things that are unimaginable. Things on the financial front, things on the geopolitical front, things on the medical front, things on the social front. I think that the crises that are coming up over the next, like I said, 6 to 12 months are going to dwarf anything that we've seen in decades and perhaps even centuries. Okay? There's a saying that history moves at a glacial pace until all of a sudden it moves at a lightning pace. And this is very true. For many decades, things have been trundling along. But all of a sudden, what I am seeing in the different sectors that I've just enumerated is just a series of crisis points that are coming at us. And so now while we still can, we have to figure out what we're going to do. So let me enumerate the issues. First off, we have the financial issue, and this is extremely serious. The dollar, I mean, the amount of dollars that have been pumped out into the market is unprecedented. Roughly a third of all dollars in circulation right now did not exist 18 months ago, not even 12 months ago, okay? And it's not just the fact that they're printing money like there's no tomorrow. The problem is that the economies around the world are over-indebted to a degree that is unprecedented. The United States right now owes more money as a percentage of its GDP than it did during World War II. And that was the highest indebtedness the United States had ever achieved, and it was to fight a two-front war. Now this indebtedness is just simply to maintain the standard of living. But you see, the United States over-indebtedness is not the only one of concern. China's over-indebtedness is catastrophic. They have close to 300% of GDP indebtedness. Now, nobody's really sure the figure 300%. That's an educated guess because the Chinese are very opaque, to put it politely, about their numbers. But their economy is in deep trouble. It is not as powerful as it appears because what's happened over the last 25, 30 years or so, they've had unprecedented growth because of a series of historical accidents. A baby boom followed by a baby bust, and a lot of people from the country going to the cities. And that's why for over a decade they had plus 10% growth per year. But that's ending. In fact, it has ended. It ended, if you look at it, it ended about 3-4 years ago. And now the Chinese economy has been growing by virtue of indebtedness. And their entire financial system is pretty much broke. I mean, they are inches away from a colossal explosion. Now, that's just the financial side. If you look at the geopolitical side, this disaster in Afghanistan, for the United States, this is a catastrophe. It really is, because it has nothing to do with Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a pissant little country, and it doesn't really matter in terms of its geopolitical significance. But in terms of the signal that has been sent out into the world, it is a disaster because it shows the United States to be a paper tiger. It shows that the United States might have a colossally large military, but it doesn't know how to deploy it. It doesn't know how to make it work to achieve political objectives. The simple fact of the matter is, the United States has shown by this disaster that there is no leadership in America. And when a country that large and that important shows itself to be weak in terms of leadership, directionless, rudderless, well, then a lot of people think that that is a perfect opportunity to take advantage of the situation in order to achieve their geopolitical ends. And that's what we are seeing. We are seeing Russia, which has just announced that it's going to start a process whereby essentially it's going to take over Belarus. We are seeing China, that has its economic problems, and it's been flexing its military muscle as of late. And it's very obvious that they're thinking that now might be the perfect opportunity to take Taiwan. And we are seeing India with problems of its own, Pakistan with certain ambitions of its own. We see a whole host of different countries that had essentially towed the line because of American power, but now that that power has shown itself to be so weak, so ill-led, well, all those little countries with all their petty little ambitions are thinking that now might be the time to make a grab at it, go out and get what they want. And you see, the United States might be able to control one of these rogue nations, but not a half dozen of them. Not when a whole host of them all of a sudden to decide to throw their hat into the ring and pursue their geopolitical objectives despite opposition from the United States, because they're not afraid of the United States anymore. That's what happened because of Afghanistan. And then there's the issue of COVID and the vaccine. Now, I'm not going to talk about COVID or the vaccine. I'm only going to talk about direct experience that I have, direct first-hand knowledge from the source itself. One of my close family members is suffering dementia, a product of this jab, it seems. At least there's a clear correlation. They took the jab, and within weeks, they started suffering the first symptoms. And what seems to be happening is that their brain is slowly being strangled of oxygen. The brain is slowly dying. That's one person. 5 days ago, as I'm recording this video, a woman I know had been having very problematic menstrual cycles. And she decided to go to the hospital to see her doctor. And the doctor immediately ordered a series of scans. And there is the fear, a justified fear, that this is uterine cancer. And then a day ago, I heard the same from another acquaintance. And then I had a conversation with a third acquaintance, a business acquaintance, a woman in her mid-30s, who told me that she was having severe problems in her reproductive system, and she was very scared. 3 women whom I know personally, and one immediate family member who's suffering from neurological problems. We're seeing all kinds of stories, and we know that a lot of these stories are being censored in social media. And these stories are horrifying. And the authorities, they seem to be hell-bent for leather on suppressing this information, even as this information is popping out here and there. We might be headed into a medical disaster of catastrophic proportions. We are seeing so many signs of side effects of these new medicines. Young people having heart attacks, and they're 17 years old. Young women becoming, for all intents and purposes, paralyzed just hours after taking these medicines. It seems increasingly clear to me, at any rate, that we are headed for some sort of widespread disaster insofar as the people who have taken these medicines. And that's a fact. So we have the financial situation that's going tits up. We have the geopolitical situation, the Pax Americana, which is falling apart. We have a potential medical nightmare that's coming up over the horizon, and it's coming. All these things, they add up. They add up, and to my mind, it seems that the smart thing to do right now is to figure out where you want to be over the next, 10 to 20 years and go there now. Now is the time to go where you want to spend the rest of your life. If you have ambitions to move to some country or, make some money here right now, but then later move back to the home country or move off to some other place that you really fantasize about or think that it would be wonderful long term, well, now's the time to do it. Now's the time to leave. Wherever you are, leave to the place that you want to stay over the next 10 to 20 years. I mean, if you're happy where you are right now, then obviously stay. I mean, you see my point. But I'm saying that within 6 to 12 months, you will not be able to travel. You will not be able to move. And the world that existed in 2019 is not going to return, not in our lifetimes. That era of free travel and free dialogue, of open and just, open dialogue on whatever topic, that's going to be over. It is ending now. Yeah, I did like a webinar and a video on Australia, right? You know what Australia just passed yesterday as I'm filming this? They passed a law, and I'm not kidding, they passed a law that they can censor your social media, and they can even take over your social media accounts, your SMS accounts, all communication media that you might have. They can censor it, delete it, stop it, block it, take it over at their discretion without a warrant, without judicial authorization, just by executive fiat. And as I've outlined before, in Australia, you cannot leave Australia, you cannot leave your home except for more than an hour per day for exercise and to get essentials. You cannot travel more than 5 kilometers. I mean, look, basically, bottom line, Australia is a police state. And I cannot believe that I am saying this. I mean, we're talking about Australia here, a Anglo-European democracy, and it is a police state in the Orwellian 1984 sense. It is a police state, and to pretend otherwise is foolish. Look at it. Look at Australia and realize that Australia, that is the future of your country. Whatsoever country you're living in, and especially if you're in a democracy in the West, be it the United Kingdom, Germany, France, the United States, Canada, it's practically there, and we all know it. All the old democracies are going totalitarian. And if there is a war with China, which I believe there will be, and I've said about it and talked about it before in previous webinars, if there is a war, these measures, these totalitarian measures, are going to increase all the way up to 11. And once that happens, you will not be able to leave where you are. You will be stuck wherever you are. You're going to be stuck, and you're never going to be able to leave, not in your lifetime. Because the shit show is about to begin. You got to understand, the shit show is about to begin. And so now that it's about to begin, you have to figure out now, right the fuck now, over the next 6 months, now you have to figure out where you want to spend the rest of your life. With whom do you want to spend the rest of your life? Which family members? I mean, if you come from, you have one set of parents, like, or one set of siblings or family members in one state or one country and another and someplace else, you got to figure out where you're going to go. And you got to go now, okay? You got to organize your shit right the fuck now. Because later it'll be too late. Later, the freedoms that you enjoy right now, the freedom to travel, the freedom of association, the freedom of speech, all these freedoms, they are going to be taken away from you. Like that. When the war comes, and a war is coming. It is in the post, it's going to happen. And I have proof. The proof I have is what's going on in China right now. Same. The Chinese are a very patient people. The communist leadership is a very patient group of individuals. They worked Russia for 20 years before they finally sealed the deal insofar as having an alliance with them. The Russians didn't want to have an alliance with the Chinese. Oh, no. The Russians wanted to have an alliance with the West. But the West fucked it up. The Americans double-crossed them so many times that the Russians finally gave up and turned to China. And China had been there patiently since 2000. They'd ironed out their problems at the border between China and Russia. And they'd been patiently working them for 20 years, and finally they locked them down. And now Russia and China are allied. And China, seeing the colossal problems that it has insofar as its domestic economy, seeing how the Chinese people will revolt, well, the Chinese government, the Communist Party, has been slowly but surely tightening its grip. It's ejected all the foreigners, as many foreigners as they can get rid of. All of their visas, their residential visas, residency visas and whatnot, have been curtailed and turned into 90-day visas or less. Those foreign language schools, English language schools in China, they've all been closed. And the Chinese, what are they doing now? They are limiting young people's ability to be online to just 3 hours per week, and not more than 1 hour at a time. And you say, oh, that's really based. You know, the Chinese government is trying to get their young people to, you know, go outside and enjoy sunshine instead of being indoors playing video games. No, no. They want to limit their population's exposure to anything non-Chinese. That's the aim of that measure. That's the aim of kicking out all the foreigners. And that's the aim of the increased nationalism. People who've been following China will tell you that I'm right. Over the last few years, especially over the last 24 months or so, the nationalism in the media, the state media, the propaganda has been turned up all the way. And they are identifying, deliberately identifying, the Chinese Communist Party with China. And that Chinese Communist Party has delivered greatness to China. They're gearing up for a war. The decision in China has already been taken. They've already made up their minds. And all that remains is for the February 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. And that is going to be a huge diplomatic rift between the West and China is going to use that as an excuse, crazy as it may sound right now, but believe me, they're going to use that as an excuse to invade Taiwan. And that's when the war starts. The Americans, they want a war. Yeah. The American military, the blob, that is the bureaucrats in the State Department and the Department of Defense and the think tanks and whatnot, they want a war. The weapons manufacturers, oh, you know they want a war. Everybody wants a war. And why? It's very simple. The embarrassment of Afghanistan. I mean, you can't look at it any other way. It was a huge embarrassment, a colossal embarrassment. It's going to cost Joe Biden his presidency. In short order, not right now, but in a month or two, they're going to shove him aside. Certainly before Thanksgiving. I mean, they're going to get rid of him and they're going to install somebody else. They're going to install Kamala for a while. And then my bet is Pete Buttigieg. And you can disagree as to whether it's going to be Pete Buttigieg or somebody else, but you and I both know that Kamala Harris, she's not going to be around as president for a very long time because everybody hates her. Everybody despises her, and she's a fucking idiot. I mean, it's a bottom line issue. So the point I'm trying to say, and the important point, is that you see, there's going to be a lot of change in America, a lot of chaos in the executive, and see, a nice war always straightens shit out. And so, as we come closer to the Beijing Olympics, I want you to pay attention to the US mainstream media and notice how vitriolic they get about China. Notice how they start talking on and on about human rights, about how they hurt the gay people or the Uyghurs or whoever the fuck, right? All kinds of nonsense in the mainstream media that has the only purpose of driving up sentiment against the Chinese, driving up hysteria against China, beating the drums of war. That's the whole purpose of it. That's all that they're interested in. They want to have a war. And for various reasons, a whole bunch of different factions in the United States would want a war. It would benefit them. Benefit them financially, benefit them in terms of prestige. And you see, it's a war that America cannot win. It's impossible for the United States to defend Taiwan. But they're going to try. And in that effort, they're going to suffer some catastrophic defeat, the sinking of at least one of their aircraft carriers. And that will lead them, the Americans, to drop a nuclear weapon. That's what I think is going to happen. And then all bets are off. I know how crazy this sounds. I know it, okay? I'm not saying that the whole Earth is going to go up in a nuclear firestorm. No. They'll drop a few nuclear weapons and wipe out a whole bunch of cities, and millions of people will die in China and probably the United States too, certainly in the West Coast. But is it going to be the end of the world? No. I mean, it'll be horrifying. I'm not saying otherwise. But it's not going to be the end of the world. The world will continue. But that is what I think is going to happen, realistically, over the next 6 to 12 months. And I know it sounds insane. And if I'd heard somebody say this 2 years ago, in September of 2019, I would have said that the guy's a fucking loon, and I would have switched him off. But let me ask you something. All the shit that's gone down over the past 18 months, could you even imagine it happening before? This shit, this insanity, it's coming. This shit show is about to begin. This whole COVID lockdown and all this bullshit, it's just been the ramping up to this disaster. And this disaster, there's no way to stop it. It's on its way. There is no way to stop it, and all we can do is get out of the way. And so that's why I'm telling you, now, between now and February of next year, you have to have your shit organized. You have to have your shit ready. You have to be in the place that you expect to be over the next 10 to 20 years. Because all the freedoms, all the opportunities, everything that we had before us will be gone. Okay? And if you want to say that this is panic porn, okay. It's panic porn, fine. And if you think that I'm totally wrong, I'll tell you right now, I hope I'm wrong. I would love nothing more than to be doing a 1 year later video mocking myself. I would love that. I would love to be wrong. I would love to be completely wrong. But looking at the chessboard at this time, I do not see any way out of the catastrophe that is coming. I see it all around. I see all the clues. Some of them are subtle and some of them are blatant. And I say, this is what's coming. And so I'm here to tell you, the shit show is about to begin. So buckle up.
Undo the life force and there goes a friend. On her nashiki, it's out of time. And through the portal they can make amends. Hey, would you say whatever will blanket friends? Can't stop what's coming, can't stop what is on its way. And through the walls they made their mud pie. I've got your mind, I said, she said, I've your voice. I said, you don't need my voice, girl, you have your own. But you never thought it was enough of. So they went years and years, like sisters, blanket girls, always there through that and this. There's nothing we cannot ever fix, I said. Can't stop what's coming, can't stop what is on its way. He can't stop what's coming, can't stop what is on its way. bells and footfalls and soldiers and dolls, brothers and lovers, she and I were. Now she seems to be sand under his shoes. There's nothing I can do. Can't stop what's coming, can't stop what is on its way. Can't stop what's coming, can't stop what is on its way. And now I speak to you, are you in there? You have a face and her eyes, but you are not her. And we go at each other like blankets, blankets who can find their thread and their pair. Can't stop loving you. Can't stop loving, can't stop what it's on its way. And I see it coming.